think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists, but they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years.
It finally happened. After months of courtroom chaos, explosive headlines, and behind-the-scenes meltdowns, The View has officially been canceled. And the fallout? It's unlike anything television has ever witnessed. This isn't just the end of a talk show, it's a media earthquake. Karoline Leavitt, once ridiculed on national television, just toppled one of the most influential platforms in daytime history with a lawsuit so enormous it left ABC gasping for breath. Yes, it's real. The network just confirmed it. The View is finished after losing the grueling $800 million defamation lawsuit filed by Karoline Leavitt. And let's be clear, this wasn't just about money, it was about justice, vindication, and a reckoning that was long overdue. Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, and Sunny Hostin have been utterly blindsided. They thought they could slander Karoline on live TV and walk away with applause, but now they're the ones hiding behind legal teams and dodging cameras. Insiders reveal the cancellation order came directly from the top. One executive reportedly screamed during an emergency meeting, "This show is a liability. Pull the plug before we lose everything." It was panic, plain and simple. The moment the verdict hit the wires, advertisers fled, sponsors cut ties, and phones inside ABC rang off the hook with demands for answers.
You know, just let's look at a scenario where the Supreme Court says, yes, he has all those rights. He is immune from everything. Yeah. You know what Joe Biden could do since he is presently president?
What?
Whoa. He could throw every Republican in jail.
The very next morning, staff were told not to report to the studio. The View had gone dark. Joy Behar, known for her smug smirks and boisterous mouth, was seen leaving the building with tears in her eyes, refusing to speak to the press. One photographer said she looked like she had just lost everything, because she had. Sunny Hostin, once proud of her legal background, was nowhere to be seen. Insiders whispered that she's in talks with private attorneys, desperately trying to shield herself from further legal fallout. She never expected it to spiral this far. Whoopi Goldberg, the queen of clapbacks, completely silent. She reportedly hasn't spoken to anyone at the studio since the verdict was delivered. One producer told reporters Whoopi disappeared. No calls, no texts, nothing. And Karoline? She didn't even flinch. She walked out of court, head held high, looking like the eye of the storm she created. The press tried to swarm her, but she simply smiled and said, "This is only the beginning." The lawsuit exposed everything. Internal emails, leaked show notes, and producer messages laid bare a chilling plan to mock and publicly humiliate Karoline on air. It wasn't just casual commentary, it was orchestrated defamation, broadcast to millions. One damning note said it all. Let Joy hit her with a joke. Whoopi closes hard. We need something viral. That wasn't discussion, that was a strategy. And the court saw it for what it was, a coordinated character assassination.
The View hosts have got themselves into hot water again after they did the very thing they purport to be against, undermining women's success. Joy Behar stunned viewers when she said Donald Trump's press secretary, 27-year-old Karoline Leavitt, only secured her position because of her good looks.
I think she's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though, it's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
The comment was bizarre, especially coming from Joy Behar, who is as woke as they come and positions herself as a champion of feminism. This online commentator said, disgusting Joy Behar of The View accuses Karoline Leavitt of being hired only because Donald Trump thought she was...
ABC thought it could weather the storm. They believed a few PR statements would calm the public, but this time, the outrage only grew louder. Viewers, sponsors, and even celebrities turned against them overnight. Suddenly, Karoline wasn't just a guest, she was a giant slayer. Headlines screamed, Karoline Leavitt destroys The View. Twitter exploded with hashtags like "Don't cancel The View," "Justice for Karoline," and "Media Meltdown." Backstage, chaos erupted. Producers were crying, staff were packing up their desks. Security was increased at the building as protesters gathered, demanding the show be taken off the air for good. One staffer whispered, "It's over." We all know it. Ratings had been slipping, but this lawsuit was the final nail in the coffin. Sources say ABC spent days trying to salvage the show, but once the judge ruled in Karoline's favor, every lifeline was severed. The damage was simply too vast. One insider confessed, "We've never seen anything like this. It's not just a show ending, it's a brand imploding. Live on screen." The decision was unanimous. The View would not return. And Joy, she reportedly pleaded with executives to let her issue a personal apology to save the show. "Let me fix this," she said, but it was far too late for apologies. The only thing coming now was consequences. Sunny tried to distance herself from the fallout, claiming she wasn't part of the scheme, but emails proved otherwise. She was on every thread, in every meeting, nodding along while her colleagues sharpened their knives. As for Whoopi, her silence speaks volumes. The once untouchable TV icon has vanished. Insiders say she's completely shocked. The lawsuit didn't vanish like all the others, but Karoline wouldn't let that happen. The courtroom didn't just deliver a verdict, it delivered justice. When the jury foreperson stood and declared, "We find the defendants liable for defamation," the entire room froze. Gasps echoed through the chamber, and then came the number, $800 million in damages. Not just a slap on the wrist, a financial knockout, one that sent shockwaves through the entire entertainment industry.
The most divisive and disgusting speech that any president, certainly in my lifetime, has ever given. He essentially waged war on half of the country by saying that we are all a threat to democracy because we believe in putting America first. It's not radical to want to put your country and your own people first. It's not radical to want to have a strong border, a strong military, and to unleash the might of your own economy, not economies around the world.
Reporters outside the courthouse nearly dropped their microphones. Cameras flashed as Karoline remained calm, poised, while across the room, the hosts of The View looked like they had seen a ghost. Their empire had just collapsed before their eyes, and there was no coming back. Within hours, TV pundits began rewriting the narrative. Suddenly, Karoline wasn't the villain. She was the hero, the woman who stood up to daytime television's most powerful voices and won. One outlet declared, "Karoline Leavitt just did what no one else could. She shut down The View and changed media accountability forever." That headline alone was shared millions of times within minutes. And on social media, it was a wildfire. Clips of the courtroom played on repeat. Memes showed Joy's stunned face with captions like, "You're not laughing now." The public was eating it up. Even major journalists admitted it. Karoline exposed the dark underbelly of how these shows operate. The scripted attacks, the smug ridicule, the unchecked arrogance. All of it laid bare in one explosive trial. Back at ABC headquarters, things were disintegrating fast. One leaked memo read, "This is an extinction-level event for our daytime division." Staff reportedly walked out, stunned by the sudden announcement of cancellation. And let's be clear, this wasn't a soft suspension. This wasn't rebranding. This was the death of The View as we know it. A total, final, and irreversible cancellation, triggered by arrogance and one catastrophic miscalculation. They never thought Karoline would fight back. They mocked her, underestimated her, laughed at her on air. But now the laughter is gone, replaced by fear and regret. Whoopi had reportedly bragged just weeks earlier, saying, "She'll never win. We've said worse." But that smug confidence crumbled in the face of undeniable evidence and a courtroom that demanded the truth. Joy Behar, once the show's snarky soul, now finds herself at the center of a full-blown media disaster. Friends say she's even considering walking away from television entirely. One source revealed she's humiliated. She never expected this to go public.
I don't care if he's pooped his pants. I don't care if he can't put a sentence together. Show me he can't do the job, and then I'll say, okay, maybe it's time to go.
And the thing is that they're taking pictures of just themselves.
Turn on the television, girl.
Where are you going?
Where are you going?
I'm leaving y'all.
Sunny Hostin, the legal mind of the group, is said to be in full-blown damage control mode. She's reportedly negotiating her own private settlement, trying to escape further personal repercussions. Even producers, once considered untouchable, are now under investigation by ABC's internal ethics team. The leaked emails were so incriminating that the company may be forced to clean house entirely just to survive the fallout. Some employees are even threatening to file their own lawsuits, claiming they were forced to participate in a toxic workplace culture culture that deliberately targeted guests based on political beliefs. The dominoes are falling, one by one, and while the media world scrambles to recover, Karoline is standing taller than ever. Her team issued one powerful statement: no woman should be mocked for her looks, silenced for her beliefs, or ambushed on air. Supporters flooded her page with love. Thousands of messages reading, "You spoke for all of us. You showed us how to fight back. You didn't just win, you made history." One viral tweet captured the moment perfectly. They thought she was the joke. Turns out she was the judge, the jury, and the reckoning. But the ripple effects didn't stop at ABC. Networks across the country held emergency meetings. Executives demanded new host training programs, anything to avoid becoming the next View disaster. Talk show bookers scrambled to revise guest strategies. Producers were warned, no more ambushes, no more gotcha games, and absolutely no targeting based on politics or appearance. The message was clear. The game had changed. Legal teams at rival networks began reviewing old footage, anxious about whether similar lawsuits might be lurking in their archives, ready to detonate. Karoline's case didn't just win. It set a precedent, and everyone in the industry knew it. Hollywood's elite, once quick to mock conservative women, suddenly fell silent. Some even deleted tweets that had aged very, very poorly. The entire media world had just been hit with a reality check they never saw coming. And the public? They couldn't get enough. YouTube exploded with live streams. TikTok filled with dramatic edits of the verdict. Memes flooded Instagram. This wasn't just justice, it was a full-blown cultural event.
President Trump's life echoed the sentiment that President Trump is a threat to democracy. And if you're a deranged lunatic and you're mentally ill, you will believe that lie. And yes, you will take political violence like we have seen in 2 instances against President Trump. Last week, Tim Walz and Kamala Harris said that everyone who showed up to President Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden was a Nazi. That's despicable, dangerous, divisive rhetoric that is spewed by the Democrat Party every single day.
The phrase "Karoline cracked the code" became the anthem of a generation tired of one-sided media narratives. She didn't just speak truth to power, she dismantled it on live television and in federal court. Meanwhile, ABC's CEO was reportedly furious. Sources say he slammed his fist on the boardroom table and shouted, "How did we let this happen?" Staff described the atmosphere as a sinking ship. Some executives floated the idea of rebooting The View under a different name, but it was immediately rejected. One blunt internal message summed it up: there's no salvaging this. The brand is toxic. Even longtime fans turned on the show. Calls for accountability flooded every ABC comment section. People were done with the snobbery, the smugness, and the decades of unchecked bias. And as for Whoopi, Joy, and Sunny, their futures remain uncertain. Rumors swirl of retirement, mainstream exile, and massive personal lawsuits still looming behind the scenes. Joy reportedly confided to a friend, "I never thought this would be the end. Not like this, but it was. And deep down, she knew it." The View didn't just lose a lawsuit, they lost their legacy. Karoline Leavitt didn't celebrate with champagne. She didn't take a victory lap. She simply offered one final message as she walked out of the courtroom. Let this be a warning to anyone who thinks mockery is a substitute for argument. And just like that, she got into her car, waved at the cameras, and drove off into history. Not as a victim, but as the woman who ended the reign of The View.
No, please, his opponents are saying to this very day the same rhetoric that led to those 2 attempts. The second attempted on President Trump's life echoed the sentiment that President Trump is a democracy. And if you're a deranged lunatic and you're mentally ill, you will believe that lie. And yes, you will take political like we have seen in 2 instances against President Trump. Last week, Tim Walz and Kamala Harris said that everyone who showed up to President Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden was a That's despicable, dangerous, divisive rhetoric that is spewed by the Democrat Party every single day. And I am so sick and tired of the media pointing the finger at Donald Trump and saying that he is sowing division in this country. He is not. The media is for pushing hoaxes like the one that you all pushed today, and the Democrat Party is for pushing lies about him. But the good news is Americans don't buy it. And that's why today President Trump is more popular than he has been since 2016, because people don't trust.
Next morning, merchandise flooded the internet. Shirts that read 800 million, mic drop, and mugs stamped with lawyer up Joy. Her supporters weren't just cheering, they were turning her into a legend in real time. And political figures? They took notice. Some hailed her as a modern-day warrior. Others dubbed her the conservative AOC, but with facts and fire. Either way, Karoline had arrived, and no one would ever ignore her again. So now we ask, was it worth it for ABC? The answer is obvious. They gambled with arrogance and lost everything. But for Karoline, it was the boldest move of her life and the most victorious. Because this wasn't just about her. This was about everyone who's ever been dismissed, mocked, or sidelined by media elites who thought they were untouchable. Karoline touched them, and they burned. And in the end, it wasn't the court that canceled The View. It was their own arrogance. They mocked her appearance. They questioned her intelligence. They scripted her takedown. But Karoline flipped the script on live TV and before the entire world. They thought they were invincible. They thought they were the voice of the people. But the people were watching. And this time, they chose Karoline. The View is no more. The set has gone dark. The lights are off. The applause is gone. And in its place, a silence so loud it echoes across the entire industry. And somewhere, Karoline Leavitt is sitting quietly, smiling. Not because she destroyed a show, but because she proved that truth still wins. And no one gets the last word unless they've earned it.